Asash, thank you so much for joining and being part of the series of podcasts that we're creating. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get a landscape, or let's say a full scope of how technology is really, let's say, penetrating into the restaurant hospitality industry. And, you with your, let's say, experience in hospitality, owning restaurants. You're now doing podcasts as well, which we'll touch on that as well. But I know that you're getting a lot of, let's say, points of views, right? And probably this could be a topic that it's coming up frequently, right? I think that AI it's making headlines in all industries. So yeah, for us, it's we like to get a full perspective of how AI is impacting at all levels, throughout the industry. So thank you for joining
Thanks
to
for
get
having me.
things, yeah, to get things going. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how do you find hospitality, right, as a part of your profession.
Sure. Well, again, thanks for having me. I'm been in the industry 30 plus years. Had seven concepts throughout my career, ranging from QSR to full serve destination waterfront bar locations. I've been multi unit operator, worked for hotels, clubs, resorts, things like that. So for me, of course, the business is evolving at such a rapid pace over the last number of years. I believe I had mentioned when we spoke that when the pandemic hit, for me, I feel like the industry changed forever. And I think it was a lot like a ball that was bouncing, and we're waiting to see where it landed. And I think now it's just starting to settle into what the future of the industry looks like, right? And most C-level executives that I'm finding today come from the tech world. Their tech stack and their experience with how to manage that is is really the most valuable thing that these businesses are looking at. And it's almost like the day-to-day operators, not that it becomes obsolete, but it's like, there's a lot of AI and tech integrations that can do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. So, I mean, that's kind of the way that I've been viewing it and starting to kind of move the pendulum a little bit towards that. I think, unfortunately, for like my generation, a little bit bridges the gap from like my father is a culinary trained chef. So, he comes from the CIA world of the old, this is how you do it. I remember when we hung a television in one of our restaurants in 2001, he's like, what the hell's the matter with you? Nobody wants that. And then like my kids today, they're like so involved with AI that I'm like a fossil, but we can at least bridge the gap a little bit. So although some of this stuff is alien, it's like we have to make the uncomfortable leap into kind of integrating it into our day-to-day operations.
Right. And since we already jumped into the subject, from what you've experienced so far, you know, what how impactful has been, for some in some cases, right, being able to integrate the technology. You said about moving the needle, right? How do you see that translating into the operation? And are we seeing a visible target, right, when we implement the system and then see return on investment, or let's say a solution solved within the operation?
I think the most obvious one, at least right out of the gate, is certainly the call to action that you'll find in, like, I work with Pop Menu. I like Pop Menu. It has the AI phone answering, but most importantly, we're gathering the data and information of the consumer. And then we'll go ahead and we're able to send out offers to them, whether it's email or text messaging. And you can actually see a real return on investment in real time immediately. So I think that's probably the first and easiest one for people to adapt to. People like myself that may be fossils in this business who may have a hard time kind of utilizing a lot of the other things that AI has, but that right there is a real tangible call to action that you can feel and track in real time. That for me was kind of the thing that started my AI integration journey. And we're still, even some of those integrations are starting to become outdated very fast.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys
No,
know it better
yeah,
than most.
I must agree with you. It's funny because it's this type of technology that it's kind of it has a let's say you can mold it right to and fit it wherever it's needed, right? And yet, once you implement something, it's like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month later, there's something new, right? There's something being discovered as well. So, what I've noticed is that it's sometimes just better to jump on it, get something going, understand a little bit about how the technology works, and then as you go through your daily operation, then you can find ways that it will impact your organization better or more efficiently. So yeah, I must agree with you in that case for sure.
I think one of the questions I would have to your point, which I agree with 100%, is, we spoke about it when I asked you a question, is like, what do you think the percentage of operators today that are actually jumping into it? And I think we all know that probably 99% of the people are aware that they need to adopt it, but how many are starting to adopt it? Maybe like 10%, but even amongst those 10%, like you said, it's one thing to know that you have to do it. To start doing it, are you utilizing it properly? That's one of my concerns and the things that I'm struggling with. So to your point, it's like, I think you just have to dive in and start figuring it out and being like, I like that, I don't like that, I want.
Yep. No, totally, 100%, and see how it fits into your day to day. I think that if there's a something holding back into a lot of owners and operators is the fact that we have maybe a sort of a fear, right, that this technology might take away some of that hospitality, let's say, nature of what we do, of the business of what we do. But at the end of the day, it's all about time, right? And time is really what makes the impact at the end of that. That's what gives us the edge to be able to be in front of the guest. If we are able to then shorten that time, right, from all the mundane tasks and all the difficult tasks, then ultimately we're building a better, bridge to be able to execute towards the guests and service. So, it's funny because it's, they say it's taking our jobs, AI is taking our jobs. Yet I think that if you don't implement AI, that's when you're really in fear of your job. I think that the fact that people are not willing to take the step is what's putting pressure on them ultimately, right? To be able to stay in the market.
Certainly, it's more of just a reconfiguration of the way that business has been done traditionally.
Right.
So, for example, I can save some money on payroll. For example, if I integrate an AI inventory program, right?
Yeah.
So instead of them going through the old lists and it used to take me 24 hours to do a hotel inventory, right?
Right.
And you could probably do it in like 2 hours today. So then where do we take that time and utilize that somewhere else to be more effective?
Exactly. That's exactly how it is. And part of and just what I've noticed in my positioning, right? And I know you're doing consulting as well, right? But right now these days you're focusing more on consulting. But what I've noticed is that in order to position AI, what you need to do is basically claim that time, right? As soon as we start talking about AI and automations and then procedures, then what we do is we recall that time and say, okay, this is the time that we better utilize doing this or cutting, a labor, right? Because at the end of the day, this is an industry that the pressure of labor can probably be seen more than any other industry. I don't know in your case, but to find people in certain positions in Florida, it's a mission. I've had my last restaurant opening was in Boca Raton, and basically we, the first couple of weeks I was the host, the server, being a director of a place, I'm like, covering all positions. So, in a way, now we have a hostess, one less hostess we need to hire, right? Or need to find, right? And one less back of the house, manager, right? Now we can maybe level into more of a supervisor, get on the line, execute, make sure the product is the way it is, because I think that's probably, the most important thing while we're in the operation is just ensuring the product. And for me, as an experience, and maybe you can chime on this, but when you see chefs that are chefs, but they're tied up with a clipboard and a pen, there's a conflict, right? There's definitely something we're missing there, right? So it's like you said. I think that ultimately, if we can, these procedures that are mundane and tedious, if we can shorten them, and then bring back that time to really focus on the product and the people, that's the win. Yeah.
You hit it on the head. I mean, certainly the most important thing for us as professional operators is to make sure that the fundamentals of food and beverage are sound. That is quality of product, execution, and service, right? But how much of your time as a day-to-day operator is focused on that when you're doing the other? So if AI can pick up a big chunk of the other, so you can focus, you build one guest at a time.
Right.
Not by sitting in the back and saving pennies, unfortunately. And so I'm really excited about what AI and the tech integrations can do for us,
No, absolutely. Just to pivot a little bit about your career, right? I want to be able to talk a little bit about Sash. How did you get started in hospitality?
So I grew up in it. My father owned a number of restaurants. He's a CAA graduate, and he opened his first restaurant. I was probably 8. It was in Port Washington, Long Island, and he was a high-profile chef. I guess if before there were celebrity chefs, he would have been like the equivalent to what a celebrity chef was. So he was the number one restaurant in New York in '88, third in best seafood chef in New York, third in the country, medals, things like that. A lot of celebrities would come in. So I was always attracted to the industry, the chaos. I loved the reality of what goes on behind the scenes. To me, it's the authenticity. It's fun. I've always tried to capture the culture, and I put culture before anything else. And I hate to say that because I'm not selling our product or our service short by any means, but experience to me is the most important thing to our operation. So we've always tried to develop concepts that kind of encompass that first. So I followed into the business. By the time I was 23, I opened a restaurant with him. I had some corporate experience before that. I worked for Club Med. And then when I was 28, 29, I had a couple of stores with some seasoned veterans. And then at 31, we opened up the concept that we have right now. This was 16 years ago, which was a high volume waterfront restaurant doing, we would do $100,000 a week during the summer, very high volume. Our lease just expired, so we actually did a very challenging transition over the last year where we relocated into the Hamptons, which is, a globally recognized region of the world. And so that store is not even a year old, but we were able to put a first season under our belt and match our revenues in our prior location. We're always actively looking. But I think most importantly, to some of the stuff we're talking about, is it's like, our margins are not what they used to be, right? It's like we used to operate on 15 to 20 cent margins, and today 8 to 12, right? So it's like if you're doing, just to use a round number of $1 million a year, and you're hitting 8 to 10 cent margins, it's like, I don't mean to be a dick, but why are you even leaving your house? I don't want to leave my house for that. I'd rather go get a job, work half the time, not have the aggravation. So if you're not using technology, media, and entertainment to create additional revenue streams to supplement those lost margins that the pandemic has taken from us, get out of the business. And that's kind of the way that we're thinking today. And that's why I see how instrumental AI is going to be in the future. We may not all know what that looks like just yet, but I think we're starting to see that it is an intricate part of our business today.
Yeah, I agree. And you said it earlier. Definitely, restaurant business changed during COVID. You know, what we used to see as, let's say, you know, a let's say a normal restaurant revenue structure is changed completely. You said it, 15-20%. Everybody was like, oh my God, you're a god in the restaurant world. Where now, you know, you're making 10% and it's like, okay, let's keep going. And how do we justify that? Because it's a lot of effort that goes into an operating a restaurant, and when you don't see margins that are so attractive, you either have to have the leverage to, I mean, first of all, passion, right? Because I think this is it's a special species, right, that jumps into hospitality. But
Mentally ill
you know,
species.
yeah, exactly. But now, especially if you're doing a full service restaurant, you probably need to have 3-4 restaurants to be saying, okay, I'm well, right? You're not necessarily going to do it with one unless you're very lucky in a rent, right? And the rents these days, even though, you know, things can be crushing, they're not going down. They're not necessarily, everything is going up. So tell me, you know, I was very interested about your story with the whale's tail. You said you were 12 years. Where were you located before you moved to the Hamptons?
So we were in Northport, which is actually where I grew up. Interestingly enough, this restaurant I opened it up with $30,000 on the swipe of a credit card. It was a side project that I did right after I exited 2 restaurants I had in the South Shore of Long Island, and the place was illegally zoned. So I was like, whatever, we'll go in there and treat it like a quick little thing. And all of a sudden, the town's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, what? And next thing you know, we found ourselves in litigation, and we litigated for 3 years, rezoned the property. But along with that, we were able to write our own lease and rent structure. And so if we want to be at a 7% occupancy, no more, I was running a 1.5 to 2%. And so we were able to reinvest back into it every year, and our numbers continued to skyrocket, 84%, 40%, 30%, until then we built the brewery on the property. And it really became a destination location. And that really is kind of part of what our story is we like to, like I said, culture. Come down to a property, enjoy an experience, don't take life too seriously. We're not curing cancer, take your shoes off, put your feet up. And that's kind of who we are as people, and that speaks to our brand. And, unfortunately, the term expired. We couldn't come to a deal. We relocated. We found a really good situation out east. In a lot of ways, the infrastructure that we had in Northport was just not really capable to kind of suit the volume that we were doing. So it was always operationally a challenge. It was a nightmare. I mean, it was a 17-acre property doing, $2.3 million out of a 2,500 square foot footprint, which is essentially, the equivalent to 3 Chipotles in the size of one. So operationally, it was always challenging. And now we feel like we can operate like, without running around like chickens with our heads cut off. The world today, like I had said, it's changed so much. I go back to 2015. When I was a waiter, I was making $1.10 an hour, and they're now making $12 an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
But in 2015 to 2016, they had a 50% pay increase, the servers alone.
Right.
That 1 year took $40,000 out of my pocket. And since then, it's doubled. In 10 years, $100,000 has been taken out of our net just in the front of the house, but their job description has not changed.
Right.
The role is the same. The employer is not getting a return on our investment or a better value on our dollar. So right now I'm more focused on rewriting the job description. I want to leverage their media and social media assets and incorporate that into our role. Like when we talk about podcasts and things like that, I think the most valuable asset in the world today is attention. So if I can go ahead and leverage the attention of my servers as content creators to help bring people to our location, that starts to justify the pay increase. And that's kind of like our attitude and approach to things, you know.
I love it. I love
So,
what I'm
Sosh,
hearing.
so
Mhm.
Sosh, you're telling that you built from 30,000 in credit card debt to multi locations. So if you want to give advice to those people who are just starting out, their journey in this world of hospitality, or more starting their restaurant, what will be top three advices for those people?
First off, don't do it. Go get a job.
It's a different time, right?
It
For sure.
you know what though? I joke around, but if you reverse engineer your concept like that, that's what we always start at ROI, what we expect to get our ROI and negotiate a lease or a property based upon making sure that our occupancy cost always stays the same. I think what is exciting about restaurants is that if we use it as a platform, the tentacles that could grow outside of that brand are endless. And that's what I love about hospitality and restaurants and being self employed in general. It's like the sky's the limit. We're not stuck within our four walls. If you're building a business just to be stuck within the four walls, then you're going to max out your sales per square foot. But in today's day and age, with delivery service, with
Catering.
DoorDash, online
Yep.
ordering,
Yep.
collaborations, partnerships, sponsorships, things like that, you're just getting started. And that's what's kind of cool about it. So I always tell people to approach it by thinking outside the box about how you can use it as a platform.
Amazing. I heard something about social media and employees, and this is a very interesting point. And it's actually a point of discussion that I've had with other podcast guests. Is that your best marketing is your own people, right? The people that actually work with you. So you said culture, and then you also said something about job descriptions, right? It's bringing people into that culture, getting people involved. Because at the end of the day, every single interaction that those employees are having with the guests, that is, in a sense, marketing, right? People can perceive walking into a restaurant if the employees are being treated well, if they're happy, if they're it's one of those things that you give to the employee and they will completely give back. How are you leveraging that, right? Because you said something, you're utilizing social media. How important has been social media for you, and how are you utilizing your tools, right? Your employees to help you boost that
It's
outreach.
it's everything. Like I said, like I don't even, and I hate to kind of take from Disney World, but they do it better than anybody.
Hmm.
You know, they're not servers anymore. You're cast members. You really are. And, you know, there's an entertainment factor that goes into our business. If you're just going ahead and putting out a pretty photograph of food, nobody gives a shit. Let's
Yeah,
be honest. Social
exactly.
media really is a digital billboard. You're scrolling past. It's like driving down Main Street, USA, and looking at a $20,000 sign, but digitally. So you have to grab their attention, right? And you got to get as much of it out there as possible. People like skits. They like authenticity. They like the reality of what goes on behind the scenes. So that's kind of the stuff that we put like SOP in place to go ahead and leverage the staff. Like I want them to come in and actually do like confessional check-ins. Like, yeah, I'm about to work a double, hungover because I was out last night. I don't want to do it, but that's funny. It's real. That's entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like our podcast. It embraces like the reality of what goes on behind the scenes, and it's rough, it's raw. The stories are funny, um, and why not embrace it and
Yeah.
bust open the cameras and let the people see it? I think it's cool.
Amazing. Well, we can pivot into your project, Behind the Blowhole, right? Tell us a little bit of, yeah, I mean, an interesting what do you mean, topic, right? Or let's say
Yeah.
title.
So,
How
so
do
the
you?
name of our restaurant is the Whale's Tail, right? So we called
Right.
it behind the blowhole. And
Love it.
years ago, I remember sitting in my office and like getting so frustrated with the staff because they're like on their phones and things like that. And like I'd like they come in the office and just bitch and moan constantly. And at some point, I'm like, I need to adapt or die. And I'm like, I should be leveraging these people's personalities, not
Yeah.
fighting it, right? So that's
Hmm.
when we started to like change our thinking and like, let's do podcasts and interview the staff and talk
Mm-hmm.
about the funny things, the funny experiences, the irate chefs that are the pans that are flying through the kitchen, the expediter that's screaming, or the server who's stressed out, or the customer who's pissed off, or just the chaos. And that's kind of what it encompasses. It talks about the real stories, but also we also talk about some of the real operational challenges, permit processing, build outs, return on investment, lease negotiations, things like that. But then we started to cross over in the recent years and take like a lot of celebrity and reality personalities that move into the industry, right? Like, for example, my brother in law actually lives down in Boca. He was on Bachelor in Paradise last year, and he's my partner up here. So he has a large reach, and people like to hear his story in the restaurant. We've had Big Ed from 90 Day Fiance come on the podcast, who's crossed over into a wine brand. Some of the guys from the Bravo Summer House, and we like to hear their story. Like, why did you go into hospitality? And it's fun and it's authentic and it's real. And comedy is always a part of our story. We don't take things too seriously. We like to have fun, so we will, poke fun at ourselves, crack jokes, try and lighten the mood a little bit, and that's who we are. Those are our concepts, and you got to have a good time doing it. Or what the hell's the point?
100%. Sash, when did you really say, okay, it's time to build content? Okay, oh, let me use this. Okay, you said something about I cannot I cannot win this battle, right? Because everybody's on the phone these days. So when did you say, you know what? This is the trend. Social media is strong. Let me take that and then package it or add a layer, right, of marketing into my business. When did that really?
Certainly, I recognized it even 15 years ago, but it really wasn't until the pandemic hit that I really knew that the game changed entirely and the pendulum swung almost 50-50 to media and entertainment to food and beverage, right?
Yeah.
And we're still figuring it out. I think when a lot of people are skating towards the puck, acknowledging that they have to do it. I don't think we're unique in that. What I think is unique is that the standard operating protocol that we're putting in place is that there are systems and procedures on how to do it now. Like the staff comes in and they check in at the iPad and maybe do a confessional, or we're using the podcast as a tool to go ahead and gather some of that content or a funny little skit. And we're not even there because, as you said, with AI and everything, it's changing so fast. It's like what we think we're doing today is right is over tomorrow. But I
Hmm.
think if you start to entrench yourself and get comfortable, that as it changes, it'll be easier to adapt to it.
Right. Do you find consistency? Like how frequently are you posting in social media about your restaurant?
Well, so the last year certainly was a unique year because of our legal transition. Certainly, we were dormant purposely for legalities. 2024 was a better year to go ahead and, they would post 4 or 5 times a week, but it wasn't just about that. I would also use influencers to go ahead and stories. So we offer out golden tickets to influencers that have high reach. Come down, comp them free meals. They spread their stuff. Leverage the staff to go out there and be like, I'm at work and do this and that. I don't think there's never enough, right? You certainly want to be on all the platforms. LinkedIn is one, TikTok is different, Facebook is one. You know what I mean? So it's like you almost need different content for each platform because they
Yep,
cater to different people, right? And we're
exactly.
not even there yet. We're just starting to kind of lay the framework out to go ahead and hit that. But what I think you need to do.
No, I love it. I mean, love it. I think that we're all discovering it, and it's like you said. It's we hit pandemic, and everybody figured out that wait a minute, we cannot stay with our hand crossed. What do we do? So it's like you said, the world changed. We got more connected to our screens during the pandemic than ever, and then we started becoming a little more creative and showcasing, let's say, stories, right? Telling stories, right? It used to be very picturesque, and all of a sudden now there's definitely more, let's say, interaction, theatrics, realness, right, in the post, and that's what people are responding. It's funny, you hit it in the bullseye. It's like people love to see their server, their real personality, right? And people can respond to that. They you can see it in the likes, you can see it how people track. How so moving from one location to another location, did you find that social media help you spread the word in your new opening? How did that build up, or how did your, let's say, regular guests were able to follow you to your new
Yeah,
location? Yeah.
honestly, without it, we would have been in trouble.
Hmm.
Um, we were able to match, and we didn't actually sign the lease till the end of March. And my businesses are predominantly seasonal, right? So we'll
Hmm.
do 75% of our annual revenues in like 100 days.
Right.
It's January now. I'm already planning the fall of
Correct.
2026. You know what I mean? So before we even found this location, the year was over. So it was essentially a prototype run for us. But we were able to, right out of the gate, match Memorial Day to Labor Day's revenues immediately. And that is all because of social media. All of it. We created a hype, made videos, excited the base, got new people that may not have known us, but they've heard of us because it's a 15-year legacy brand. And they came in there, and it's just such an incredible tool if utilized properly. If you're not utilizing it, you're done.
Yeah. I think that there was a generation of restaurants, like we'll call it the iconic restaurants, right? These, I don't know, Joe's Stone Crab, to give you an example, right? 100 years, whatever. And you're going to have your staples, right? But ultimately, I think that right now, if you're opening a restaurant and you're not utilizing social media, your chances are very limited, because I think we continue to go to all these iconic places, but it's by programming, right? We were there when we were young. We were there. So they're part of our story. But nowadays, how do you? I mean, obviously word of mouth, right? You associate. Oh, I went to this place, amazing, right? That's probably the most powerful way to get to a restaurant. But other than that, if you're not involved in social media, you will never get discovered. And it takes just like that one thing to go viral, that one dessert or that one dish all of a sudden, and then you have lines, and you can see it. I'll give you an example. So I opened a bakery, a Sesame Bakery in North Miami, a part of the group that I was working. And I wasn't really so involved. I mean, we obviously know we need to manage social media, but I didn't understand really yet the tentacles of it, right? But we opened this place. We already have, kind of like a base following. So, people were going, But then I started seeing a different type of demographic. And then it was because somebody posted on TikTok, in a couple of weeks, and they were, oh, I came here because of the TikTok. And then I started hearing that as I, approach people. How do you know about us? Oh, TikTok. It's like, that's when I really understood, wait a minute. This is the gate. This is how you're able to be successful without, really having a name for yourself. I think social media, it sets you up to be able to, be successful without really having a let's say a pedigree or reputation of owning restaurants. So I don't know.
I,
What is your take? Yeah.
I to your point, if we come full circle to the start of the conversation, all the stuff that we're talking about is a full-time job in its own right.
Right.
So now you have to say, where do I have the time to do the inventory, to go ahead and answer the phone call, pay the extra person to sit at the hostess stand, do the 5-hour inventory, do the schedule, blah, blah, blah. And that's where technology saves the day.
100%.
Because you have to focus on now what is, if not more, at least 50% of the importance of our business, which is focusing on getting the people in the house.
You got it. 100%. Um, uh, so let's go back a little bit to so Blowhole. You told me you focus mostly on employees, but you're bringing also outside guests into the podcast, right? Is that
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of our strategies this year, and we call it the Trojan horse.
uh huh.
The podcast itself, although it's cool and we've had quite a bit of success with it, it's about what you can get out of it to go ahead and put to your social media marketing tools, right? If people see 30 seconds of, Big Ed from 90 Day Fiance, who's, known and recognized all over the place, and they're like, oh, that's cool. Why did they interview him? Or then we interview, this guy from this reality show or this celebrity or that celebrity. That's kind of what our focus is to use it as a draw
Right.
to get some celebrity and personalities that crossed over into our industry, that we can interview them from a professional perspective and be like, why did you, just like we're having a conversation, we're professionals in the industry, why did you do it? You know what I mean? Like, we have Hampton Water, which is a popular brand up here in Long Island, probably down there as well. It's a John Bon Jovi brand, right? So we'll work hand in hand with them. We hope that we'll have the opportunity to interview one of the Bon Jovis and things like that, and then you take that content, you circulate that, and it gets eyes on the prize. So it's really one of the tools in our marketing belt. Not all of them, but it's a great Trojan horse.
Right. No, I totally, and I must agree. I think that ultimately it's about building the space where you can extract natural content, and then podcast gives us that exact opportunity really to get know people, enter into casual conversations, just like we're doing now, and sometimes in naturalness and natural conversation is when you're able to kind of get to discover people better, right? See people better. So, for us, we use it the same way. I think it's a way to connect, get to know ideas from others, exchange ideas, and at the same time, just get some bits that will help build,
No
the
doubt,
brand ultimately.
we may have 15 seconds of gold on here that none of us have realized,
Correct. Exactly.
But that's what it's all, and networking. You're meeting guys, and it's a privilege and an honor to have a chance to meet you guys, and this is fun, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's say, talk overall consultancy. Somebody wants to, like, Sherry Art kind of mentioned, what would you, recommend, or let's say, tell people that are trying to build a restaurant on this day and age, right? What does it take, right, to be able to be a successful restaurant owner operator in your experience?
A lot of humility,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of pride and passion. I think you need to make sure if you're getting into it, you're getting into it for the right reason. I always ask everybody, say, what is the why? You got to reverse engineer it from that. What is the reason? If you're doing it because, everybody at home says I'm a great cook and I make a phenomenal, Italian dishes, that doesn't automatically qualify you to be in the restaurant business.
Right.
Because the food is only a small piece of it, right? So I think the why is really important, and the money, it's not like it used to be. If you're passionate about it, for us, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is utilizing it as a platform to help people. Like, we'll employ 70 kids throughout the year, right? And these are our community's kids, 16-year-olds. A lot of them, it's their first time jobs. They're pains in the asses. They're going to make mistakes. They may forget the extra napkin, or forget to give you that drink
The
refill.
ketchup or whatever, yeah.
But they're our community's kids. And if you can play a role in helping to go ahead and teach them an ethic and mold them, and if they come back down the road and be like, I now have a family, I have a great job, and I learned a lot of these tools from you, that's cool. That to me is like one of the things that I get up for every day.
No,
So
100%.
you got to know why you do this,
Yeah. How important is leadership in a restaurant? I know the answer to that, but I like to hear it from people's perspective. Is this something that you, as a business owner, do you obviously calculate and you measure and you kind of guide your leaders, right? Your GMs or your how important is to have the right leadership in your operation? You know?
It's certainly, I mean, I've always compared restaurants to like a football organization, right?
Hmm.
Where like you start with ownership, you got your coaches, and then your players and your personnel, and you develop people, right? There are different coaching strategies. I have been tyrannical.
Hmm.
I've managed from fear based when I was younger. You may get the result that you're looking for. It's not sustainable. It's really not. I have found the better approach is to go ahead and be a leader that is there to go ahead and develop people to be good people. You can teach them how to wait table, but you can't teach them that. So
Hmm.
you hire right, and you try and go ahead and just cultivate a healthy atmosphere where we're all there to help one another. And I think the rest of it just happens organically.
Agreed. Yeah, the right environment. If you build it, then anything flourishes from there. And you said it. I think that as long as you are, you have a structure of real, true values set, and you guide a team from there, then the culture takes over. And it's funny because once you have your core team and the culture is set, people either adapt or they get bounced out. They won't show up again. So it's crucial.
The crap kind of
Development, it's
takes
key.
itself out.
Yeah, development is 100% key. Yeah, agreed. So you're in the Hamptons now. Are you a seasonal restaurant, or do you open throughout the year, the whole year, or close a couple of months? How do you operate in
So
the
this
Hamptons?
this being only 6 months old, I mean, we treated this year seasonally as we would traditionally with our model, because we didn't have enough time to really put the infrastructure in place to kind of expand it. However, this store is built out better where we could actually turn it into a 12-month operation. I think that'll happen on its own over the course of the years. And then we're always looking for other things. I had, QSR has always been a part of my thing. So rubber stampable type of concepts, I may get back to that. But it's been a busy last year, so I've been focusing on just kind of making sure that the transition is sound, and then we may get back to some other projects that we've kind of had in the back burner. We'll see.
Okay. So more coming up for the next coming years, looks like.
Listen, I'm mentally ill, man. It's you always what's next, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, right? So.
Agreed. Agreed. You're right. All right. So let me ask you, if there was one thing that you can say, okay, um, I'm experiencing this bottleneck here, or this is a common challenge. I need technology to help me here. What would be that one thing that you say, I still haven't found a solution, or I would love to find a solution here?
I think execution is the biggest thing that I keep in the front of my mind right now. It's like, right, like we all have ideas. Everybody's got ideas. Executing them is a hard part, right? And so all of the stuff that we spoke about today, it's so easy to get lost in it. And then if you could utilize AI to take some of the heavy lifting away, so you could focus on putting a system to execute those ideas, then you're going to win the game. That's what you got to free yourself up. I mean, how much shit do we have to do every day in this business? So it's like you look at a new operator that is having a hard time just getting the basic fundamentals sound of service and quality product. That's not even good enough. So if you can't even do that right, even if you do that right, but you can't do the other and get the people through the door, you're screwed. So you got to be able to execute. And I really believe AI and technology will simplify systems and procedures enough to free our time up.
So, Sosh, what do you think? How big is the issue? That during the busy and rush hours, you restaurants not being able to pick the calls, and is it an issue for you, or it's not an issue, or based on your experience?
Are you talking about like the AI phone calls?
Yeah.
I integrated it 2 years ago, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it because I used to be like a Gestapo. 2 rings. Pick up the phone in 2 rings. If I hear it 3 rings, I would get pissy and angry because you're going to lose a customer. So yeah, I love the AI phone calls. I
So you
love.
have been using it for 2 years now.
I've been using it for 2 years, and I look at the data. I see how many people come in. You could program. I got catering business. Somebody has a catering question, and it texts them a message to the catering manager, and boom. So if you're not using it, you're done. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
For those people who who think still in 2026 that this voice AI for restaurants is something that they are a little bit skeptical about, or they are a little bit confused about. What's your advice for them?
It's a very good question. I'm trying to think how a way to articulate it. We have fear. You know what I mean? We're always afraid somebody's trying to pitch us a new idea, and you got a new cost. You just have to think smarter. What's it going to cost you? I don't know, $50 a month or whatever it is to put an AI service in there. But how much money are you going to retain? It's like, don't try and save pennies when you're losing dollars. And tech stack is a big thing. You know what I mean? So I see how it's easy to get lost, and it's like, do I need that? Do you want them all integrated in one? And that's the problem right now. Is there's so much out there? A lot of them do the same. They're getting lost in translation. But you got to be in the game to understand the game to help you make the better decision.
And
Right.
Sosh, what do you
I
think?
think
People are, sorry, Alex. So I have just
no,
one more
please,
question.
but
So I was just thinking, that just Sosh, you mentioned about that when you're losing dollars and thinking about pennies, that's not a good choice. Uh, Another big perception, and a question that I usually get to listen from people is that AI is going to replace us, and the job loss or unemployment or all these things like that. What's your perspective on that thing? Because that is one of the hottest debate that I'm seeing at the moment.
I mean, specifically in hospitality, and I don't want to be rude in any way, but most people are not becoming telephone answerers or hostesses who are
right.
picking up the phone for a career. It's a transitional job. So, yeah, AI is going to replace that. But it also, for us, opens up other opportunities to utilize these people to maybe give them career minded options. And that's what's cool about the business. It's like it's a reconfiguration. I've even in fact it's like somebody's going to have to start to manage the tech stack. Let's
Yes,
think about
correct.
it. Let's
Exactly.
say you got 4 or 5 in your stack and you're only using 10% of the capabilities of each of them. Then why even
Correct.
have it?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and pay somebody $70,000 a year to sit there and use 100% of the
Potential,
capabilities
yes,
and watch
exactly.
that revenue stream spiral 30%.
100%.
That's how you have to.
Agreed. Agreed. Good point there, Sash. I really agree.
Yeah.
I
And
really agree.
Sosh, what do you think, that, you were talking about the revenue potential, and also, that AI is not going to take all these things. And also one really interesting point that you mentioned that, we are not in food business, anymore. We are in entertainment business. So, when it comes to hospitality, when it comes to understanding the other person, and being human, and and then we see AI as something robotic. So people think that the core essence of hospitality will some way swayed away with this robotic AI and all these things. And so how do you see the world of hospitality evolving with the rise of AI and all these tech integrations?
That's a great question, and actually, I think everybody's probably lived on ChatGPT at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And the stuff, it's behaviors adapt to your behaviors. So certainly within the next year or so, you're going to see AI agents of stores that can actually replicate the personality that you want to program for them.
Yeah.
So like our culture is like, hey man, how are you? We're flinging tacos. Our AI agents, they're going to talk like that because we want that
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. the agents. We're in that stage that we're personalizing agents right now. Every restaurant is probably going to own, or every business is going to own their large language model, basically with all the data of the restaurant. And you can just give it instructions and it's going to build you, like you said, like you need, right? It's going to build you a training structure. Now the managers don't need to waste time. The whole AI will give them the questions, the topics for the weeks. Will set you up with a pre-shift notes. There's so much that can be done that all of a sudden you have a person, a manager inspiring people instead of just being drowned it, trying to rush their opening, trying to get the doors open on time. You know what I mean? It's just it's gonna give it another pace, right? And we're gonna be able to then focus on that growth, growing people, developing people, I would say. So
It's actually
yeah,
very exciting, to be honest with you. It's
yeah.
actually a real exciting time to be in the industry
So,
because
so what will be top three tools, tech tools that you suggest to any restaurant owner, who wants to embrace AI or tech in general, and they're just starting out their journey. If you want to suggest some tool that can, help them to be more productive, or reduce that, the operational burden for them.
um, certainly, I think that you want some sort of data and information gathering system that you can snowball into a call to action, like a pop menu or any of those other things, emails, text messages, offers. That is real dollars and cents that you see back on your investment right out of the gate. Um, Admin type of stuff, we use like 7 shifts, which I like for scheduling, but also communicating, right? Like you can upload documents into there. In fact, we're starting to even take it a step further, right? Like for example, we're on Riverside right now, right? Let's go ahead and do a 10-minute training seminar and then upload it to 7 shifts. And that goes ahead and removes 15 minutes of reading a 30-page manual
Correct.
when you can go ahead and sit in your car and listen to the manager give you 10 minutes mission statement on what you want to do. So I love that. We're moving to that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
So,
phone answering, as I said, is huge.
So, Sosh, you started, you had, I would say, a very interesting beginning, from, that to scaling restaurants, and, you also mentioned that networking is everything. So, if you have advice for someone, uh, for 20 years, Sosh, well, what will it be, who's just starting his journey and you're stepping into this world of hospitality and, and
Talking to 20-year-old me.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that guy's long gone. Um, the first half of my career was built on passion, ego, and drive, and I did very well with it. The second half is wisdom and experience. I
Mhm.
think I think a little humility is good for the soul. Um, I think I tell people take your time, just have fun with it. Try and not win it all in one day. As long as you're in the right trajectory, you're okay. Take it easy on yourself.
Love it.
I think with time, you get to be more calm, and when and in 30s, you get that wisdom and all these things, which is absent in in the starting year of the journey. So,
If you're fortunate enough to make a lot of mistakes in life, then you're fortunate enough.
and some people are really scared of this all these tech things, and they're really scared that that what will it do to the essence of core hospitality, and uh, and the world is so rapidly evolving, as you also mentioned, that we are living in the is age of attention economy, and with the advancements in the AI, it feels so difficult to cope up with all the advancements, and it feels irrelevant after each 30 days. So what do you think for those people who are really scared at the moment, and really confused, how should they cope up with all these rapidly advancing world of tech and AI?
Yeah, I try and not live anything in my life off of fear because it just cripples us in general. And the truth of the matter is, it's really cool, the stuff that they're coming out with. I mean, I think it's going to take it to the next level, beyond our wildest dreams. I may not know what that looks like, and it's certainly uncomfortable for me, but you know, I mean, you have to be uncomfortable in order to be an innovator in your business. So if you're uncomfortable with doing something and you're not going to embrace it, then you got to ask yourself if why you're doing it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Sosh, how do you want to be remembered?
how do I want to be remembered? Well, for me, as I had said, it's like we like to help people. You know what I mean? It's like I just can't put a value on the. Listen, look, you said it yourself. 3 restaurants, yeah, you're doing all right. 1 restaurant, like go get a job. What is the why? And for us, having a platform that you can really create an environment. What comes in the food and beverage business, unfortunately, is a lot of chaos and
Mhm.
a lot of partying and people go out and they it's sometimes it's not stability, it's a pass-through business. So
Right.
if you have an opportunity to kind of coach the youth throughout that process, how to not get stuck within themselves, for me, that hopefully is the legacy that I'm able to, is that I genuinely care. I want to try and leave them better off than when we found them. That's all I really care about. And have fun. I like to have a good time.
And Sash, you mentioned, that, initial years of your journey, your father helped you in starting things out. So how do you see the role that your father played in your life? And, when you're starting your journey and, when you remember at the moment, how does it makes you feel about your father and, the bond that you shared with him and, how you started things out? And for all the sons who are listening out there, do you want to give an advice who are really annoyed that their father imposed things on them and they want to be a musician or something else and they are scared that I want to follow him and he's
Well, fathers
always
and sons, are tough, and when you're a young son, you always want to question dad and that you could do it better.
Mhm.
Truth be told, is take it easy on the guy. He's seen a lot, and I think this same thing that's happening now. Like my brother-in-law is my partner, and he's significantly younger than me. But there is a generational gap that is really valuable.
Yeah.
It's like the sons bring a lot of value because they're in the current trends, but also so do the dads. They're the liaison to traditional hospitality. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, you know, you gotta find value in everybody. Not be too hard on them. Although there's a lot of this, but there's probably more youth, I think.
Yeah, man. I think with time, you get to understand him better. With each passing day, you think that it's more like a graph. At one point in your early in your career, things like that why is always like that, and now once you transcend it, you feel like okay, now I get to understand why he was like that and why he was saying all these things. So yeah, man.
Sure, no doubt, no
So
doubt.
Well, Sash, listen, we reached the hour. I wanna respect your time. I would love to, maybe in the future do this again. We're looking forward to, continuing conversation. We're gonna see how we're gonna make some edits, share all this content with you.
Please, I
Um,
appreciate it, man. I've really, it's been a chaotic couple of years, and the smoke is finally settling. So a big focus for us is to get entrenched within our industry community. So if I can be of service in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. Not only it's just a pleasure to talk with you guys. You guys are cool guys, and yeah, you never know where shit goes, right?